Hi Ravens! Today we're going to focus on organizing your evidence and beginning to put your thoughts together in paragraphs. We're going to start by working on our body paragraphs, and that's going to focus on the problem and the solution. We're doing explanatory writing, so your goal is to explain the problem and the solution to the reader. The reader is someone who doesn't know anything about your country's problems, so it's your job to teach them about that. The first issue that we're going to write about is water. In order to do that, we're going to take all of the information we've gathered and we're going to put them into different buckets. The first thing that I want you to do is to take a look at your notes and your feasted evidence. So if I was to go back and look at my evidence, I can see right here that my evidence talks a lot about access to safe drinking water, and it talks a lot about infrastructure. So these are some of the things that I found that were really important to look at. So safe drinking water, many people are moving into the city, urbanization, there's not enough money to build infrastructure, and there's a problem with improved settlements. So when I look at my evidence or my explanation of the different evidence that I gathered, what I'm realizing is that infrastructure is a really big problem in my country. So after looking at all of the different pieces of evidence that I've gathered, these are the things that I came up with. So bucket number one would be cost of infrastructure. One of the reasons that infrastructure is such a big problem in Ghana is that they don't have the money to build the infrastructure. Another problem is diseases from contaminated water. And my final problem is spending time walking to water. So basically people are spending way too much time, women and children especially, are spending way too much time walking to water, which means that they can't be productive in other ways. And these are all the buckets. So what I want you to do right now is I would like for you to take some time right now and organize your country's water problems into 3 buckets. You're going to do this all together with your group. So here are some examples. Contamination. Maybe your problems are contamination, like by salt from rising sea levels or fecal matter, or by oil from tankers used to transport oil and water. Maybe your problems are lack of water, like climate change or drought, or the pumps and wells are broken. So your countries may have other issues. I want you right now to choose the top 3 issues and to organize them into separate buckets with your whole group. So I'm going to ask you to pause right now and go ahead and do that. Okay, now that I've done that, here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to start taking my information and I'm going to organize each bucket into a paragraph that starts with a topic sentence. Here's how you're going to organize your writing today. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to write a claim, something that you want to support with reasons, evidence, and explanation. You're going to take your bucket and you're going to write down the topic of it. You're going to give reason 1, a topic sentence for this paragraph. What is one reason that you're going to explain in this paragraph? Evidence, facts, examples, anecdotes, studies, statistics, testimony, and definitions. Explanation, why does this evidence support or contribute to the reason? And a clincher. You're going to wrap up the idea of the paragraph and connect it back to your controlling idea. How does this paragraph support the larger argument? Okay, Ravens, so now you guys have seen how to set up a paragraph. So I'm going to show you exactly what I want you to do in order to write your paragraph. So the first thing we're going to start with is our claim. Today I'm just going to give you that. I actually just want you to pause right now and I want you to write down this claim, just change the name of the country. So lack of a clean, sustainable water source contributes to poverty in Ghana. That's my example. I want you to write the same thing except for change your country at the end. Okay, go ahead and pause and do that. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to decide which bucket we're writing about. Today, I'm going to choose to write about the cost of infrastructure. So I'm going to write the title, Cost of Infrastructure. I want you to go back to your bucket really quick and choose which bucket you want to focus on today, and I want you to write that title at the top of your, right underneath your claim. Go ahead and do that. Okay. So now that we have our claim and we have our bucket choice, we're going to go ahead and get started writing our body paragraph. Remember that the first thing that we need to do is we need to come up with reason number 1. So we're going to write a topic sentence for this paragraph, and what is one reason that you are going to explain in this paragraph. So if I'm talking about infrastructure, my first paragraph should talk about infrastructure as well. Here's the sentence that I came up with. The high cost of infrastructure for clean water to cities causes Ghanaians to remain poor. Cities in Ghana are growing too quickly, and the infrastructure to provide water is not keeping up with the pace of urbanization. So basically, I went back into my notes and I thought about how the cost of infrastructure is really affecting Ghanaians in Ghana. And I decided that to come up with this sentence, I needed to start off with how to explain this. I also wanted to make sure to mention how, because the cities are growing so fast and they just don't have the infrastructure to build this, I made sure to say here that it's growing too quickly and the infrastructure to provide water isn't keeping up with the pace of urbanization, like how fast the city is growing. So right now I want you to go ahead and pause and talk to your neighbor and try to figure out how you could come up with the best topic sentence to say what you're going to explain in this paragraph. All right, so I have my claim, I have my bucket topic, and I have my topic sentence. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write my evidence. So I'm going to go back to that page that I had all of my notes, and I'm going to choose the facts, examples, anecdotes, studies or statistics, testimonies, and definitions that really help me support and explain why this is a problem. Here is my evidence. According to Native Energy, more than 50% of the 2.1 million residents of the capital city Accra don't have clean water in their households because they don't have the infrastructure. So my first sentence here really stands out. It gets you to think about how big of a deal this is. When 50% of people don't have water, that's a problem. So I really want to pull in my reader with that. Let's keep going. The problem is that they don't have the money to build the infrastructure to have improved water systems like piped water in their houses. So because this is a problem, because infrastructure is a problem, then they don't have systems in their water. They also don't have money to build it, right? Remember that these people are very poor. They also don't have the money for other solutions, such as rainwater harvesting equipment or wells. So again, infrastructure, money, these are all problems that I talk about up here in my topic sentence and in my claim. So I'm remembering during my evidence that I'm explaining that. I also have at the end of my sentence here where I got this information from water.org. Because it's not my information, I'm just putting it in my own words. Instead, they have to buy water from private sellers. This water costs up to 10 times more than the price of water that comes from a water system. So I'm again just continuing to explain how this is a problem. I'm restating evidence in my own words to explain the problem that these Ghanaians are having in terms of how their infrastructure and the amount of money they have is not allowing them to get water. So right now I'm going to ask you again to pause and to go back and look for evidence that you can either write down in quotation marks like I did here to really show that these are not your words, or you're going to go and paraphrase some of the information that you wrote on your notes. Go ahead and do that. All right. So I have my evidence. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write a quick explanation. I'm going to really just explain to you why this evidence supports or contributes to my reason. And it's pretty short. It's just a couple of sentences. So this means the poorest people who can least afford to buy water end up paying the most for it. Since they're paying so much for water, they don't have money to spend on food, shelter, education, or investment in businesses that could increase their income. So in this part right here in this explanation, I'm basically just stating like how this is a problem and why this is a problem for poor people. And I'm going back and thinking about how my evidence and my topic sentence and my claim at the top really connects to this idea. So I'm going to have you pause and go ahead and do that with your neighbor. All right, last step. We are going to do something called the clincher. So the clincher sentence, remember, is going to be like a summary of coming back and thinking about my controlling idea again. It's a summary statement, and we're trying to understand and write about how this supports the larger argument. So I need to have one more sentence that talks about infrastructure and talks about poverty. So my sentence is this: the lack of infrastructure and high price of alternative water sources contributes to keeping them in poverty. So now I've come back and I've talked about both the infrastructure that I talk about up here and the poverty that I talk about up here. So I'm going to have you pause and go ahead and do that. All right. So now that you have all of these pieces together, I'm going to read you mine, and I want you to see if yours matches up and you're really doing a good job of adding evidence and explanation that supports your topic sentence. So lack of a clean, sustainable water source contributes to poverty in Ghana. Body paragraph 1, cost of infrastructure. The high cost of infrastructure for clean water to cities causes Ghanaians to remain poor. Cities in Ghana are growing too quickly, and the infrastructure to provide water is not keeping up with the pace of urbanization. According to Native Energy, more than 50% of the 2.1 million residents of the capital city Accra don't have clean water in their households. Because they don't have the infrastructure, the problem is that they don't have the money to build the infrastructure to have improved water systems like piped water in their houses. They also don't have the money for other solutions such as rainwater harvesting, equipment, or wells. Instead, they have to buy water from private sellers. This water costs up to 10 times more than the price of water that comes from a water system. This means the poorest people who can least afford to buy water end up paying the most for it. Since they are paying so much for water, they don't have money to spend on food, shelter, education, or investment in businesses that could increase their income. The lack of infrastructure and high price of alternative water sources contributes to keeping them in poverty. So here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to go back to your buckets that you came up with your group. I want you to choose a second bucket topic, and I want you to go through the same process again. You are completely welcome to watch this video to help you out with writing your second paragraph. However, by the end of class, I would hope that you have a second paragraph written. Okay, if you need any help, ask Ms. Arvidsson or Ms. Hirosh to help you. Good luck.